Greetings and welcome back to my game talk, although today I suppose it might be better or more appropriate to call it platform talk, because today I'll be talking about the nature of PC and console, the differences between the kinds of people that play on the console versus PC and vice versa, and some related game issues, as certain games these days are exclusive to primarily console as opposed to PC. Now, of course, it's been a long-standing running joke, particularly in the BioWare sociopathy forums on the multiplayer section. So sort of rivalry, if you will, between PC players and console players, particularly players of Xbox 3 Shitty, soon to become Xbox One, and PC players. And, of course, there's the jargon, PC master race, filthy console peasant, mustard race, as they refer to us sometimes. And I suppose there's a bit of truth to some of that, but that is the bravado and what have you. But at the end of the day, I know as for myself, I have no real issues with people playing console. Obviously, it's not so much the people that play on console so much as what the console represents to me, which I'll get to in a bit. But what are the reasons? What are the reasons why people play on console versus PC? It's a bit more complicated and complex than people are led to believe. Now, the first reason cited that you'll often hear, and the reason that most people believe, it's the cost-prohibitive nature of PC gaming. Now, PC, you have to constantly upgrade hardware, improve hardware, drivers, video cards. New games come out, more demanding, and I face that issue as someone who plays on a laptop, and as someone who's quite poor, I'm well aware of the nature of something that's cost prohibitive. But that actually is only a part of the puzzle, a part of the mystery. People will cite it as being cost prohibitive. But the real reason why people play on consoles, the real reason, I don't like terms like that, but the truer reason, or the majority reason, if you will, has less to do with cost than it has to do with other factors. Now, the cost prohibitive nature is the most cited one, but there are other more subtle factors which I think actually contribute more to people's suffering from consolitis, as I like to sometimes call it. Convenience. Most people I've talked to, I've run a lot of informal interviews with console people over time, and they just like the idea of being able to sit on the couch and turn on the television and just with your strange controller apparatus and just play games. Fair enough. But particularly on the Xbox 3 Shitty, soon to become Xbox One, there are really social reasons being the main drivers behind consolitis, or just playing on the console. People like the social interaction, and if there's any indication of this, once again, the area that I was most familiar with, Mass Effect multiplayer, is that there definitely was a pronounced tendency on the part of PC people to be rather mute, to not use their mics, even though most of us had mics, particularly in public games. Whereas Xbox, based on observation of live streaming and similar such things, a never-ending stream of chatter, talk, and so on and so forth, and a lot of shit-talking to boot. So, and then having talked to other people who are, I suppose, more casual gamers, whatever that means, they also cite the social reasons, the ability to interact with people. And I think ultimately that is the main driving force behind consolitis. It's not just the cost-prohibitive nature of PC gaming, although that certainly is a factor. No one's denying that. And like I said, I'm acutely aware of costs myself. But given the disadvantages to playing on console, which ironically, are tied into the cost-prohibitive nature of PC gaming. I mean, consoles are fixed. You don't need to upgrade, but then again, you cannot get upgrades. It's just stuck the way it is. And quite frankly, those who have experienced the joys of a keyboard and a mouse versus a controller, I think most people, by and large, or the vast majority of people, would concede that a keyboard and mouse is a superior means of enjoying games and playing games to a controller. But now we're getting into the physical properties. I mean, the real physical properties and qualities of PC versus console that really make the difference. So once again, you have the rather paradoxical nature of cost-prohibitive PC game versus console gaming. Therein lies the rub, of course, because PC, you can get a lot more bang out of the game than you can on console, which is fixed and static in that sense. Another reason, another difference, of course, is modding. PC, depending on the game, allows you, for games like Fallout series, The Elder Scrolls, and back in the day, Dragon Age Origins, which was fantastic. They put out some very nice mods on that. That's another reason to play on PC. So, and you can't do that on console, obviously, most of the time. So the question is here, given the fact that, in my observation, a lot of the driving force behind consolitis, the malady of consolitis, is primarily social. This desire to sort of interact with other people, and a kind of just what I would refer to as a casual sense of gaming. Now, that's a very tricky term, mind you, to say that. I mean, there are hardcore gamers. One of my own subs told me I was a bad player and I wasn't a hardcore gamer. Because, well, I don't know. I don't have the reflexes of a 20-year-old who plays FPS, 10 hours a day. But there's a subtle distinction between I don't consider myself a casual gamer. I wouldn't call myself hardcore. I'd consider myself a serious gamer. I invest a lot of time and energy, and as people of a similar vein, in particular games, exploring the lore, the game mechanics, and so on and so forth. I would consider myself a serious gamer. Now, I don't know if that falls in between, casual gamer or hardcore gamer, but I would argue that, and this will lead to another train of thought, that consolitis, or playing on consoles, is often related to just a sense of casual gaming. The person who would rather just flop down on the couch and turn the telly on and play with a controller is almost by nature a casual gamer. He might be a hardcore gamer in the sense that he knocks out endless hours on Call of Duty or whatever, God of War on PlayStation or 3 or whatever it might be, but he is nevertheless a casual gamer. He's not really seeking content. He's not seeking to understand the lore, and he's not so much about the game mechanics that much. Of course, there are exceptions, but generally speaking, the guy who's playing for social reasons, to talk trash on the Xbox 3 shitty chat, as I've observed, or to just flop down the couch and just relax, that's a casual gamer, regardless of how hardcore he is. A casual gamer in the sense that whilst he likes the game, he doesn't really take his games all that seriously. He doesn't really delve into the nature of the game. And I think this is, in fact, related to the whole phenomenon of consolitis. Now, it's important to note, full disclosure is, of course, appropriate, that I once was a consoler, too, in 1987. Super Nintendo, for example. I remember Super Nintendo, Zelda, Legends of Zelda. I think it was 88, in fact. But since then, it's been, for me, a move away from that, to say the least. And there is something about console gaming, I think, that has, I won't use the term ruin, but for someone who appreciates well thought out games, particularly of the RPG genre. There's something about console gaming in general that has sucked up resources from creative designers and game developers and really funneled those resources, in my personal assessment, in the wrong direction. And why do I say that? Well, as I said, console gaming by its very nature is based on casual social interaction. And if you want to add the cost-prohibitive nature of PC gaming to it, you can do that as well. But based on countless observations, I'm almost convinced that it's primarily a social phenomenon and a phenomenon of essentially casual gaming, in a different sense than the traditional sense, which I've described just prior. People just want to have fun. They want to enjoy their games. Most of the games on console are fairly mindless. God of War, great game, I guess, and there's a bit of lore behind it, but for the most part, it's just, mindless violence, mindless killing, which can be fun sometimes. The same with most games. There are exceptions. For example, one major exception was the fact that Mass Effect, the franchise, the series, started out as a console game. Mass Effect was console on Xbox 3 shitty, and then moved to other platforms, PC, and finally came out on PlayStation. So that's a rarity. Most console games are games, as they say in German, of Schnelllebigkeit. How would you translate that? The sort of fast-paced, transitive, and get your kicks out and you're done. They tend to lack replay value, and they're not very well thought out. Overall, there are exceptions. Mass Effect, overall as a series, the gods know Mass Effect 3, and I've mentioned that, was a bit of a miserable failure in my opinion, but it started out as a console game. And you have to combine the fact that people who play on console are casual gamers by and large. They are not hardcore in the sense I'm talking serious gamers, and they tend to just sort of just want to relax and play games, and that's fine. That's fine. But if that's your interest, then you're going to have a market in terms of the productive forces within that market cater to that interest. So what do we see? We see a lot of general rushing of games. I think after investing a great deal of time in certain games, for example, BioWare, because EA is another factor. I can mention that. Started rushing games. Part of that has to do with the trend we see in the gaming world. I mean, consoles are fast-paced. Play. Most people don't engage in a lot of replay on consoles, with a few exceptions. I mean, the games that are universal, like Minecraft, it's a totally different genre. But you play it once, and it's good, and that's cool, and that's it. That's going to force the market to adapt, and it's going to force the developers to produce games and churn games out one after the other, without a lot of the energy that potentially could go into a game that might take years of development. And that, of course, takes away from the quality, the overall quality and depth of a game, potentially and in reality. Now, this isn't the sometimes called console war mentality. There's no console wars versus PC. This is simply the observation of someone who is a serious gamer, maybe not hardcore, maybe not casual, that has seen a disturbing trend in the last 15 years or so. Once again, my own personal assessment and feelings on the matter. Based on the quick, fast-paced, play a game, get it done, move on to the next one mentality. Most games these days produced don't have a whole lot of replay value, most of them. And that's part and parcel of a phenomenon we've been seeing due to the consoles, I think, in large measure. If you have an audience and if you have a target market that just is casual, just wants to chill out, chat a bit, shoot a couple of zombies, hang out on the couch, you're going to get games, generally speaking, that reflect that. And moreover, I think it's safe to say that consolitis as a malady is much more common amongst the younger generations than it is amongst my generation. Now, if you recall what they said in the Kickstarter project, Obsidian, the one I mentioned in the previous talk, that is Project Eternity, they want to do a PC exclusive game. That does not fly with most developers because that's not where the money is. The simple fact is there is a lot more money in console gaming because, well, for the reasons I've cited. Your common man, your common person is just wants to, flop down on the couch, turn the telly on, play with a controller, do a couple of rounds, whatever. They're not interested in in-depth role-playing experience. And you see this, you definitely see this, I think, in the phenomenon of Skyrim, which, I'm pretty familiar with by now. The big gaming channels that did LPs of them on Xbox 3 Shitty, for example. I mean, these were not well thought out LPs. Of course, you couldn't mod. It was just, it just came out. Let's get the LP out. That's it. Not a lot of reflection on things. I mean, every one of these LPs, you could see the guys were, by the end, just running around in Daedric armor with Daedric weapons and 100 enchant. And I mean, it was just stereotypically boring. There was no real interesting angle to it whatsoever. And that is, I think, summarizes the nature of consolitis. That, particularly for games that have a lot more depth than the lore of Skyrim, or games such as Project Eternity that Obsidian's working on, or even Dragon Age, which was essentially a console port. So I'll get to in a bit. That's the trend that you'll see, and I think you can't totally generalize the population of console people, but generally speaking, console people, they play a game, they move on, and that's it. And that's true of some PC people too as well. I know people on my Steam list, the younger guys, they're constantly playing new games, and the younger they are, the more they switch. I mean, it's just one game after 1 week and then the next one. Whereas I tend to just devote a lot more energy to 1 or 2 or maybe tops 3 different games, and not all necessarily at the same time. And that's just how I roll. Given the fact that we have this trend of fast-paced, put the games out there, and that's the nature of consolitis, a lot of things have become console ports. So this is my other gripe with consoles in general. You have an industry that is catering to what the masses want, which is clearly more consoles than PC. They're doing rush jobs. They're creating games that lack expansiveness and replay value and depth in large measure. But you can see this, by the way. Look at CD Projekt. I mean, The Witcher originally started as PC, and now it's moving to console and all this stuff. I've actually never gotten into The Witcher. I probably should. I guess never got around to it. I'm not sure. But a lot of the games are becoming console ports. I mean, the BioWare games, Mass Effect console port. Arguably, you could say Dragon Age Origins console port. I mean, if there ever had been a console port in the Dragon Age, it certainly was Dragon Age 2, and so on and so forth. I feel that the kinds of games that you see in the console world, they hold back PC progress. I don't just mean in terms of the graphics, well, that's obviously an issue as well. Partially than a main issue or minor issue rather. But the game development. Look at what Obsidian had to do, and I'm happy that Obsidian took this route. That they turned to the old school PC players to have a Kickstarter project funded by PC players. Because that wasn't going to happen in the real world of publishers and publisher perish consolitis. And what I see then developing slowly but surely is you might see an overall trend of people who are interested in the more sort of the more classic, in-depth, thought-out role-playing PC style game versus just shoot 'em up, move on to the next game, which is, I think, the hallmark of consolitis. There are exceptions, as I've said. There aren't too many. And I see this as a possible trend for companies that want to produce good content that's PC exclusive. Because the gods know if you want to see a hallmark of the fact that console gaming in general, inferior is the wrong word, but it sort of caters to a different genre of people. The fact that the DLC for Skyrim, all of it was first Xbox 3 shitty exclusive because of special deals that Bethesda made. To giving the console peasants, early access, console exclusives. This is how console games are sold, but it's generally not because of the great level of depth and thought that's gone into them, but by creating deals of exclusivity and things of that nature, you have consolitis continues to be perpetuated. And any major company will be doing cross-platform material. Do you want to ask, well, you're not asking me, I'm telling you, but one reason I think that the great, I forgot what it was called, it was the toolkit, I think. It was just called the toolkit, maybe, for Dragon Age Origins, that you could mod things, and there were some really great mods going on there, not to the extent of the creation kit, I mean, it was far more extensive, is that the reason why they got rid of that in Dragon Age 2 and will not have that, guaranteed, they've said that, for Dragon Age 3, is quite frankly, once again, consolitis. To create something that's only valid for the PC, that isn't cross-platform, is financial blasphemy in the eyes of game developers, or particularly the publishers such as EA. Don't give the PC people more tools with which they can improve the game. Just keep it where it is. And you will see this phenomenon over and over and over again as more and more games become console ports. I mean, I considered getting Dark Souls. Then I read some news saying that it's going to be completely taken off PC in about half a year's time. That is, there's going to be no support anymore, and so it's going to be left to just people to keep up the network. I don't know the exact details, but yes, Dark Souls will not be on PC in a bit of time. So I decided against that. But it's strongly advised to use an Xbox 3 shitty Microsoft controller for this game. Well, because it's a console port. Everything is a console port these days. And that does take away from the overall development of PC gaming, which is why you're seeing an uprising in things like Obsidian's Project Attorney, another one very much related to Torment called literally Torment Tides of Numera. I will talk about that at a later date, a spiritual successor to the game Torment specifically. And so on and so forth. You're going to see a lot more of this sort of trending, a lot more PC trending in the direction of being funded by Kickstarter people, PC people, that are sick and tired of seeing the rush jobs and things of that nature. Let me just drive this point home. You're not going to get overall in-depth, well-thought-out games as long as consolitis is the prevalent malady on the market, because consolitis, by its very nature, encourages people to just be in it for the quickie, if you will. They just want to have their fun, get out, and that's it. Move on to the next game. With that mentality, you can't expect developers are there to make money, or specifically publishers are there to make money. More specifically, shareholders are there to make money, but follow the money. If the money's not in well thought out gaming, then they're not going to produce well thought out gaming. You're going to get shitty games like Dragon Age 2, rush jobs, and Mass Effect 3, and so on and so forth. You got to get it out. Did consolitis cause this specifically? No. But it's an overall symptom of a disturbing trend that's been occurring in the gaming world for quite some time. Now, I've said a lot. Let me just add a few extra thoughts, though. I, once again, have nothing against console people, but you can see, and I think it was really great on the part of Obsidian, that some of these developers, really talented people, are tired of the malady of the disease of consolitis just everywhere. They want to create PC exclusive content, and quite frankly, a game such as Project Eternity shall not be and will not be missed by console people, because that's not the kind of game that interests them. You can also just see, and people are, well, they're not going to like what I have to say right now, but I'm no stranger to controversy. That people on PC overall, whatever their age, tend to be more mature. I mean, if you hear the stories, even on the Call of Booty forums, which I don't venture into, but I know people who play Call of Booty unfortunately. Hopefully they can be saved still. They tell me, the PC versus console, different world. Multiplayer, the same thing. We PC players might be mute, but you like a lot of the trash talking. People are friendlier, less aggressive, and so on and so forth. So there is a real division in the gaming world. I see people say there is none. I'm not going to call it there's no such thing as console wars versus PC per se, but put it this way: based on all the things I've cited, consoles hold back PC gaming, and I don't just mean in terms of hardware requirements and physical properties of PC games. It holds back development, because quite frankly, most of us want to see games that take 5 or 6 years to develop and then have a brilliant, polished, fantastic product that you want to do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 playthroughs on, because there's so much variety and so many nuances to the game that it just keeps sucking you in again and again. And be it a sandbox like Skyrim, which has its own merits, or just an in-depth story-based role-play such as Project Eternity, which, quite frankly, by speaking of Dragon Age Inquisition, let's hope it turns out to be that, a really in-depth story-based game. They have been working more time on it than previous titles, but this is the cost. This is the prohibitive cost, I think, ultimately, of the overall trend to favor console over PC in most people. Most people aren't interested in depth in anything, whatever the subject nature it might be. Once again, I cite my Indeterminate Vagabond, now defunct channel. People said you need to, just give it time. The problem is, I'm almost 40. People are not interested in language and linguistics. And I don't want to go too much of a tangent, but and making videos of any sort is time consuming, and we have limited time. Making a long lecture type video with a lot of detail on a specific linguistic topic takes time, and if the audience isn't there, unfortunately, you can't justify the amount of time put in. So console gaming, by and large, in the final analysis, is a reflection of, in my personal opinion and observation, people's just lack of interest in detail and complexity. There are, of course, exceptions, both in the people and the few games that start off as console ports. But overall, people just want things to work. They don't want to understand how things work. And that's part of the mentality behind not really wanting to get into the game mechanics of things, not really getting into the lore. They just want to, it's just mindless fun. And this is a reflection of a culture and a society at large that, I use the term nether ape sometimes, but it tends to be pretty mindless in general. And if you have that overall trend, coupled with all the reasons I've cited already, you will end up with a phenomenon or a malady such as consolitis, and it will be the bucking trend for presumably decades to come, unfortunately. But thank the gods that in spite of all this mindlessness, in spite of the willful ignorance of many people, and despite this trend, you do have companies like Obsidian wanting to produce good content. I'm still willing to give BioWare a try. I've been a BioWare fan, no, but certainly someone who's been involved in BioWare games for quite some time, and I'm not willing to give up on them quite yet. But the more consolitis dominates the marketplace and sets the trend, the more you're going to see, I think, of some of the disturbing trends I've talked about and the lack of depth. I hope I will be talking about the Elder Scrolls most certainly in an extensive game talk, probably pretty soon. But let's hope that companies that cater to all platforms can somehow balance that. If not, Stardust in the future, if he's still alive, might be a exclusive donor of Kickstarter projects, because those are the kinds of games I love. And Skyrim, they did a pretty good overall job, but hey, would I still be playing Skyrim now if it weren't for the mods and the modding community and the fact that it's on PC and you can do it on PC that way? Absolutely not. The replay value, the different builds and things of that nature, that's what really kept me going and kept me putting in all those hours. And, I hope the major companies, particularly Bethesda and BioWare, find a way to balance it all out and keep the depth in there, despite the fact that they inevitably, due to market demand, have to cater to the filthy console peasants. Now that's just a joke, but to the console phenomenon. Anyway, I've said a lot. I'll leave it at that. I guess you could keep on talking about this topic forever. It's a big topic, but thanks for your views and your likes, and all my subscribers are very much appreciated. And may the gods watch over you, and have a nice remaining Sunday, whatever your time zone might be. Take care. Bye-bye.